All right, I think we're good to go. Okay, so for the reflection on the videos, I would say that my first important point would be being remembered. I think it's very easy to talk and to create a speech and to not be remembered. Not even with a speech, but in certain shows and certain I don't know. I'd say YouTube videos even. It's very easy to watch something and forget it. You go on TikTok, you watch a video, Instagram Reels, all those certain things. There's times where you just swipe, and you couldn't even remember the last video you watched, except for certain times when there's a video that stands out, when it's something that really hits you from where you are in your situation. It relates to you as a person. It makes you realize something about yourself, something you should change. For some of those videos on TikTok, at least for me, I think a lot of my For You pages, I think gym culture, sort of, I don't know, motivational videos with like David Goggins and whatnot. But I think those are some of the videos that I remember the most, rather than the ones that are just, short term, kind of, I don't know, fast paced videos that, wouldn't really stick with me till the end of the day even. But there's certain videos that are motivational, and they sort of will get me out of a rut. They'll get me off my butt and help me to get into the gym if I hadn't hit the gym that day. I think there's a big importance to being remembered. You have to create lasting points, a lasting effect. For example, the valedictorian of my high school, when she had her speech, and this is also going to relate to one of my other important points, which is relating to listeners, but also being remembered. She went up and gave her speech. She came up there. She had all these notes with her, and I felt kind of bad because she was very sweet. I was friends with her personally, and she was a tiny little thing, shy voice, but the smartest girl ever. And she went through note after note and read off the speech that she had prepared. And you could tell that she had worked endlessly on this, but there wasn't any point of it where she related to the listeners, and where she created something that would be a lasting effect of her, something that would that the people would remember her after that night. I honestly can't even remember what she talked about, because I think a lot of it was about herself, about how she stayed so dedicated. And then there were a couple call to actions in there, and it was a good speech overall for a valedictorian. But I think, I don't know, I don't remember her speech, and the only thing that I remember is that she kind of fumbled around, and she didn't leave a good lasting impression. So that's what I remember. So I think that's one of the most important points from what you taught. I think next would be being audience centered. I think when you're audience centered, it relates to the other points, but when you're audience centered and you focus on who you're talking to, then that can create a big difference in your speech, and in your impact as well. I think you wouldn't want to talk about, I think, I don't know, just to like make an example, you wouldn't want to talk about like depression or sadness or something like that in front of somebody who's going through it. You know what I mean? You want to switch their mind up to something happy, some good time. You know what I mean? So you want to first off realize who your audience is, who you're speaking to. Like for example, I got up in football. I was the team captain one year, and I had to talk to my team after a big loss, and I had to go up and remember that my audience right now is a group of guys who are going through it. They worked their butts off to get to this point where they are. They worked so hard, and now it all came crumbling down. So I had to speak life into them. I had to motivate them and lift them up and get them out of that rut. I think next, telling a story is so important. I think some of the best friends that I have personally are people who I think are really outgoing people. Like people person. Not to say that they're not an introvert, because I think I'm kind of introverted in the way I gain my energy and everything. But they're extroverted introverts in which you know, they're really good at talking, and you know, my best friend that I live with in this apartment is, you know, great at telling stories. You know, he catches people's attention, and he you know, continues their attention through his story, and he's able to give, you know, solid points and crazy details. So I think telling a story and really getting the audience to live it with you is very important. And then lastly is just relating to the listeners, because you know, you want to connect to the listener, to the audience, um, from wherever they stand in their life right now. So you know, I think, yeah, I think relating to listeners is, you know, my last big point. I had those other three, but this last one, just relating to listeners, because um, I think meeting them where they're at, and you know, kind of fitting into their shoes is a big part of making an impactful and lasting speech. So yeah, those are my main points.